Hi, everyone. This is My Heroes or the Heroes podcast, and I have someone amazing today. My next guest is Majbrit Bøttger, high performance, certified high performance coach. How are you, Majbrit?
I'm great. I'm great. Thanks for having me. I'm excited about it. I've been looking forward to it.
Oh, me too. When we talked the other day, I said, well, I want you in front of the people that I know because this information is so needed. How to take probably anything you do to the next performance level. Do you want to share a bit about the story? What has you got you started on the journey of high performance? Tell us, were there any challenges in the way?
Absolutely. Actually, as a kid, I grew up in a family where everybody was always looking for solutions. So when things didn't turn out the way they wanted them to, my parents were always like, okay, let's make the best of this situation, see how we can move forward from here and find another way to do things. So I grew up in a really positive environment and I just dabbled through life, followed the flow. I was in flow, so no big obstacles until there was, and I didn't know how to handle it. So that's what kickstarted all this. Was a marriage that I should have left probably 4 years earlier than I did, and I was the kind of like I was using my kids as a great excuse to not take action, right? So it was like, oh, maybe it's just me. So I put it on me rather than facing the music and take action and do what I probably deep down knew that I had to do, but I just didn't have the courage or the strength or the surplus to do it at the time. So I used my kids as an excuse. And I said, well, it's probably just me being difficult or too demanding. And there's the kids. I mean, they deserve that we stick together. So it's a classic, right? So many people do this. And in the situation, it made perfect sense in my head, right? But looking back at it, it was a disaster. But what happened was I had a complete meltdown, like a mental meltdown. I stressed out, like I was a mess. And eventually I had to take action. I had to leave that marriage because part was that he was being a jerk, and part was that I let him. So it kind of just escalated and got worse. It was not all him, it was me too, but because I didn't have what it took to stand up for my own boundaries and respect myself enough to make him respect me as well. So it's always both sides, right? It's always this. Yeah.
Did you say drinking? He was drinking?
No, he was being a jerk.
Oh, being a jerk. Okay. I
Yeah.
just wanted to follow
Yeah.
up on that because I was thinking, did I get that right? So did
No,
you
no, no.
say,
He's not a drinking
yeah.
person at all.
So
So,
you
and he's not violent, but he is yelling loudly. So he's got this threatening attitude. Not anymore, but he did back then. So he was not in a good place either, obviously. Today we're getting along fine, but it took years to get to that point. But anyways, I had this major stress down, and the divorce itself was really ugly. He went to trial twice to try to get 1 out of 3 kids that we have together. And I had to move to the other part of the country to distance myself because he just ran into the house, started yelling and screaming, and the kids got all freaked out. So it was a horrible time. And that year was just about surviving and dealing with this stuff that was the consequences of getting this divorce. So when you do that, you can do what you have to, right? Because you have to keep picking up the pieces, and you have to be dealing with the trials and dealing with the kids being torn apart and stuff like that. And then finally, everything settled down, and then I crashed again because now I had time to, right?
what happened? Because this must have been, as you said, this was 1 or 2 years, right? And then
Yes,
you had this relief.
yes.
What happened then?
I think what the major thing was that the second trial he went to, he lost the first. The first one, they just dropped the claim, and so there was never any sentence there. And the second time, the judge sentenced that he could not have her. And she was careless enough at the age of 10, so careless, quote unquote, to say that I don't want to be split from my two sisters. And he was so furious with her that he left her behind, picked up the two others, took them on holiday, and left her behind and said, I will never have anything to do with you. And she was 10 years old. But so of course she fell apart and she was unhappy, and we have to struggle through that. But after that, because the judge kind of closed the case, he couldn't come back and do more harm. So that was kind of like, okay, now we have him. now we know we're safe. And that's when the second crash came.
What happened?
So that was a really hard ride. But then I met up with Brendan by coincidence in Copenhagen. And what happened was that my company, by the way, I got fired as well, which is, that was a minor detail back then, right? So usually it's something that you take to heart, but this was just, oh, well. Before that happened, they signed me up for a 4-day seminar in Copenhagen called Elevate. And it had like 16 or 20 different international speakers, like apparently really hotshot names. I found out afterwards, but before I didn't know any of the speakers, not a single one, never heard the names or anything. But one of them was Brendan Bøttger. And I just went, my boss said, you know what? I think we already paid for the seminar and the hotel and everything. So yeah, I think you should go. I think you need it. And I think she was right. And then I went, and I was just sitting on a chair. I was not paying attention at all. I was just in this bubble, not completely passive, really. It was freaking me out that I didn't know how to get out of that funk. Because as I mentioned earlier, I grew up in a family where we always find a solution. And all of a sudden, I didn't know what to do. I never had enough resistance to get through this big one. So the positive mind was a gift, but in this case, it was a struggle.
You didn't have the resilience. Life did not prepare you for the hard stuff.
Yeah, the hardship of this situation, not at all. And it freaked me out because I always knew what to do, and now I didn't. And that was scary. So I was just sitting there in the chair, not paying attention, and just being, I don't know, gone mentally anyway. And then Brendan went on stage, and I don't know what he did different than anybody else, but all of a sudden my attention was like, whoa, what he says makes sense. And I was just listening carefully to every word he said. He was on all 4 days for a couple of hours each day, and I was just taking everything in, and like, oh, there's hope for me. and you kind of get this hope, and this, you get fired up for a little while that you can see maybe there is a way out. I'm not the only one living through this funk and this despair. There's people all around me who does the same, but like me, they don't talk about it. So in the last day, you could go up and you could get to talk to him. So you stand in line like a teenager at a pop concert, right? And I was just standing there. I was like, I gotta go up there. And the closer I got to my turn, it was a long line, so you get to think a lot of thoughts while waiting, right? And the closer I got, the more freaked out I got. And I almost jumped out of that line like 1,000 times because I was like, what am I going to say? I was completely starstruck by him because he was so amazing. He was awesome on stage. And he was like, it felt like he was talking to me. He's got that. He's always like that. But I didn't know that at the time. So I was just like, wow, how can he know that I have all these problems? And you don't figure out it's because everybody's got them. So, but at that moment, that really mattered. And the closer I got, the more scared I got. And my palms were all sweated because I didn't know what to say to him. I could not contribute with anything valuable at that moment. And I was freaking out of the thought that he would say, "How are you doing?" Because I knew if you asked those words, if I guess you know the feeling, right? If you're feeling like crap and somebody says, "Are you okay?" That's when you break.
And
That's
what
the
did you
worst thing.
ask? What happened?
Yeah, I went up there and he took one look at me and he said, "I can tell that we don't have time for this right now, but here's a program." And he handed me the sign in for an online program called High Performance Master Course. And he said, "You'll find the answer here." And I was just so thankful that he read the situation. So I was just like, this is amazing. And I went straight to the hotel and unwrapped it, locked in and everything, and saw the first module. And it was amazing. And I was all fired. I was saying, okay, I can use this. Just to find out that module 2 is stripped out after a week. So this was a 12-week program where every module is stripped out a week apart. I was like, I cannot wait a week for the next one. So I wrote their support and they said, "Yep, well, that's how the program is." And I explained to them how I got the program and what happened and why I needed it. And eventually I got them to log it up for me. So it took me only a couple of days to go through, like I was binging this program, right? So I think maybe it's 30 or 40 hours of teaching in there. And I just went a couple of days, went through it all, started it over, went through it again. And it got me out of the funk, because sometimes when you feel completely lost, all you need is somebody who comes and say, "Start here." And then you're on the move, right? And that's what happened. And I took it all in and I started implementing stuff. And all of a sudden, like within weeks, my whole mental mindset shifted 180. And people around me, friends and family and colleagues and stuff, were like, "Whoa, what happened to you?" I was like, "I'm trying to live my life. You should try to."
How did they react? How did they react? Because see, I've had that experience a few times when I went to an Anthony Robbins event. I haven't gone on Brandon's one, but I've seen him online, and I can see he's really powerful. How were your advisors or the people around you? How did they react? Because there's so much energy after these events, right?
It was night and day, right? I was passive and depressed and stressed out, and I was absolutely no good to nobody. And if there wasn't anybody else feeding my kids, I'm not sure they would have gotten fed. So, and then I go to being, whoa, life is cool, and a wall-to-wall smile on my face, right?
What a transformation.
And people responded really positively, actually. They were surprised, and they were like, first they were worried that I would start doing drugs. I said, "What are you taking?" "Nothing. I just been to this event and he's just amazing." And what happened is, and then I started telling my experience with this whole transformation that came so fast. And people were like, "Wow, okay, so I got this problem. Did he teach you anything about that I can learn from?" And I started helping people.
So
because I could, and because, you know what, once you teach others, it stick to yourself better. So that was actually, teaching others was a part of the healing process, I guess, because I keep reminding myself to do things right. I'm not the kind of person who tells people to be a high performer and then I'm a couch potato. So you kind of like have to take your own medicine. So I can only teach what I'm doing myself, and I know to be true to work.
Very powerful. I mean, I love it.
So
what
they responded really well. And then a couple of years went by, and I kept going through that program over and over again. And every time I did, I learned something new. And that's because, of course, I move. So what I focus on changes. So even though, and I'll say that to anyone who says, "Yeah, but I already seen that speech on YouTube, or I already went through that online program or whatever," do it again. Because every time you do it, you learn something new about yourself.
That's very powerful. That's very powerful, as you say, because that's been the story of my life. Like, I did books 2 or 3 times. I did very important presentations. I've been listening to, sometimes, as you said, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And the mind seemed to have this new state to absorb the information which we may have not been ready for before. But
Yeah.
now we are heading towards mastery. And of course, as you said, when you're starting to teach it, then your application is reaching a much higher level. And then what happened?
Yeah. And then I just went through with my life, and I started getting the pieces back together again, and started to create a family for me and my 3 girls. And things got good, right? And you know what happens? Once you get recognized as being good at something, you stop delivering to your fullest of your potential.
I don't know.
So that's what happened. Then I settled for good and not excellent. There's nothing worse than that, right? Isn't it? Now I'm aware of it, and I hate seeing a high performer not delivering when I know they could really make a difference. Just because they're getting recognized for good. But anyway, so I started just quote unquote being good. And at some point I was kind of like, something needs to happen. I was getting bored, I guess, mentally bored. So I had to get some new challenges. And I was asked if I wanted to be certified, CHPC, certified high performance coach by Brendan. And it's kind of pricey. And I was alone with 3 kids, and I was like, no way, no how. I would love to, but I can't. 3 years went by, and I just did what I'd done so far, and I'm going through the program, but I knew somewhere that I reached the level that I could reach on my own. So I needed something different to lift me up to the next level. And he asked again, would you like to be certified? And this time I said yes. And you know what changed? Nothing changed between the first and the second time. Other than that, I've been like hamster wheeling it for 3 years. If that's even an expression, but it is now. So my mindset shifted. I recognize now that if I wanted to move on and move up, I had to go get that certification. I never did it to have it as a job afterwards. I did it because I personally wanted it and needed it to strengthen myself. So I accepted that, and that was, if the first one was transformational, the second one, I mean, it was in California, and I didn't need plane tickets home. I could fly on my own. It was crazy how much you learn about yourself during that certification week. It was insane. There's 12 sessions, and you go through all of them as a coach and as a coachee. So imagine that split on 5 days, that you have to go through 24 sessions, and your emotions, happy, sad, anger, courageous, all the emotions, you go through them over and over again over the duration of 5 days. You better believe that you get cleaned up. So it was awesome. So I came back, and I was even more fired up than I was when I left, of course. And people were like, what happened to you?
Again.
Yeah, again.
New version of you unleashed, huh?
Yes, it was amazing. And I just felt like I could conquer the world. I got my self-worth, my courage, and my energy, my motivation, and my fire back on. And I felt like I could move the world. And then people started taking notice again. But now other people started taking notice as well, not just close family members and friends and people just around me, but further out, like if you can say, the second and third circle of people in your life started taking notice and started asking for advice. And at some point I was like, I can actually charge money for this because it works. I could see with all the, it was never set up to be beta coaching, but I just did because it was friends and I knew people liked them, wanted to help them. And I could see the transformation I created in them. So at some point I said, I can actually charge money for this. This is really powerful and this works. So I started doing that as a side hustle. And it was, I was in the oil gas offshore, doing technical sales, doing leak sealing on the platforms. I didn't do it. I've never been on a platform. I just did the sales part. But that was like a huge contrast to the soft coaching part. So, and I kind of like that. I think you got best of both worlds. But then they closed down the Danish branch of that company. And it was like, yeah, then I'm just going full time. And that's how I ended up here.
How many years ago? When did this happen?
Back in 12.
Wow. And
so I've been doing this actively for over 10 years now.
Yeah. And you still feel yourself growing constantly?
Yes, absolutely. I have coaches to help me make sure that I do. Because I'm not a superhuman. I mean, let me get that completely straight. I'm just like anybody else. Everybody can do this if they want, but nobody can do it alone. Success is a team sport.
Absolutely, I agree. I am the product of the product myself. I see my 8-figure mentor, and he is, I think, the best one here in Australia. And he's had millionaires coming out of his, from under his hand. So yeah, I mean, to be credible and to keep growing, then there needs to be someone always opening the new opportunities, the new door, and the new version of you, unlock it.
Yes. And to kind of like pinpoint my blind spots, because they're called blind spots for a reason. So you don't know what you don't know, but somebody else will know what you don't know and recognize it. So it's a huge help in moving forward. Otherwise, I would get stuck like everybody else. So you need somebody to constantly challenge you and push you and support you and lift you if you want to keep moving. To find somebody who's ahead of you who can do that for you.
Who is your ideal client or someone you are out there to help? Is there a specific niche, or tell me how?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because in the beginning I didn't have any preferences. If people wanted my help, great, and they could be the garbage guy or the CEO. I didn't care. It was all about the will, and I still feel that way. So if this is something you want, then you're a good client. If it's something that is forced on you one way or the other, not by me. I never sell anything. People come and buy from me. I don't sell it. I can explain things for them, give them clarity, but I don't sell stuff. And that's a cool place to be. But I struggled a lot, and everybody told me, you got to have an avatar, you got to have a niche, you got to have all this stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do what all the wise people say, and I'm going to create an avatar. It took me 3 years, and I ended up with a clone of myself. And trust me, I don't want to work with somebody like me.
So what did you do instead? Because this...
Yeah, I completely gave up on all the guru stuff about niches and avatars and stuff. And then I just put myself out there. I was just being me. For better or for worse, being me online. And then I figured people who like me and my style, my energy, my celebrational style, because I celebrate a lot. I think we do it not nearly enough. All the little wins, we should celebrate all the little wins, because you need so many little wins before you get the big one. You're not going to raise the first place prize over your head unless you win a lot of games.
Yeah,
I think it's important to celebrate all the little wins.
Yeah, I love what you share very powerful. And I think there is this saying, your vibe creates your tribe. So
Yeah.
there will always be people out there, and there are millions of them who are looking for someone like you. And because of the mind, because they're looking for a blonde, they're looking for someone from Europe. All of those things are adding up as to how they start to relate to you. And I
Yes.
believe that's the case similarly for me down here in Australia, with strange accents from living in New Zealand and Ireland and coming from Hungary. But I think what really drives people towards you, oh, that's what I found, is results.
Yeah, of course it is. They don't care about me. They don't care about my product. They care about, can they go from place A to place B? And if they trust that I can bring them there, then they're going to go with it. And they don't care about the process until it becomes a practical thing for them, where they need to know where to show up and when, right? Then they care about the process. But initially, they don't care. They just care about, can they go where they want to go? And if they trust I can bring them there, then they trust the process by, like, automatically.
And what is
So
the process? So someone is looking out to maybe engage with you. How would they be able to start? Is there a way they can have a chat with you, or do you give away something for free as a free book? Tell us something.
yeah, I got several options. I can always sign up to the newsletter. That's free.
Okay.
It comes out every Sunday. It's called Sunday Success Letter. And it's all kind of topics like self-belief, self-confidence, leadership, motivation, all kinds of different topics within my field of expertise. And that's free, and you can sign up for that on the website. And then I have a try me out kind of online program called Smiles. And Smiles is 6 modules, and it's 150 euros. So it's like easy. Then you can get in and evaluate, see if you like what it is. If you don't like it, you can get your money back. I do have a money back guarantee, and you get to keep the program. So that's a no-brainer, or it should be at least.
I love it.
But before working one-on-one with me, you will be going through a screening process, because I want to make sure that it's going to be valuable for both of us. I don't want to take people's money if I can't help them. And I want to make sure that they have the level of dedication needed to going through this sort of coaching, because that's going to be a lot of hard work, and you need to be okay with that. I'll be there in your corner the whole time, hold your hand and make sure you're not feel stranded or alone and you don't get stuck. So I will be there, but it's still you who have to do all the hard work.
Powerful. And sometimes I'm feeling I'm talking to myself because I seem to have very similar. Yeah, absolutely. I filter people, and I'm happy if they disqualify themselves because they are not coming through to have that 10 out of 10 commitment, which I know will create fast results and lasting results.
Yes.
Very powerful.
And that's why I do this clarity call, where we figure out, okay, what is really the issue? What are you struggling with? What are your challenges right now? Why is it important to you? Is it really what you say it's important? Is that really the case, or is it something else? And we get clarity about that in the call. The clarity call is free, and usually takes about an hour. And then we see if there's a match or not. But if there's not a match, it's okay. You still leave the call knowing in which direction you should head. So it's never for nothing. You will get clarity about what's important and what your inner integrity looks like. Because if you're not acting according to your inner integrity, you get in trouble. And that's when you feel frustrated and feel like that you get annoyed and short fused and stuff like that, and you snap at people and you feel this frustration and you can't really explain it. And when somebody says, what's the matter with you? I don't know, I'm just feeling pissed off all the time. And I think everybody tried that. And when that feeling occurs, it's usually because your inner integrity or your core values, whatever name you want to put on it, is not aligned with how you actually act. So then you reach that, and it's time to go back and see, okay, what's really important to me, and try to streamline it so your actions will match that. So that was just an easy hack.
I love how
But
you. I really love how you describe this. It's very parallel journeys. I'm also giving 1 hour, and I'm looking for what is the unawareness, where is the unconsciousness, where are those frustrations coming from, where are you having those blind spots, and each of us have it, because
there's this, my whole coaching, whether I do with it doesn't matter what I do, it's based on the CHPC. That's the foundation of everything I do. And then of course you add on as time goes and you get more experienced and you learn other things, but there's a baseline there in the CHPC, and then you add on, and it's science backed. CHPC, the process is science backed. And what they found was Brendan conducted the biggest survey in history to find out why extraordinary people are that way. What are they doing different than everybody else? We all know extraordinary people. So what are they doing different? And he set out to find that. I was over 300,000 coaching calls, 100 of millions of data points, and all kinds of stuff that is the basis for this. And what they found is there's 6 things. If you master those, you are on the roll. And the first thing is clarity. Be clear about what's important. Not only your goal, but also your purpose. So it's kind of split in two, right? You have a goal that's very tangible and it's easy to measure on, and typically career driven. And then you have the purpose, who is how do you feel? Who are you, and who do you want to become? What legacy do you want to leave behind? So that clarity is number 1 in the process, because if you don't have clarity, none of the rest matters, because you will have no idea whether you're moving yourself in the right direction or not. So, and then energy, of course, is number 2, and courage comes in. And I found that lack of courage and lack of clarity are the 2 major reasons people get stuck. And lack of challenge. And then you have productivity. And it's all about how to get shit done without being stressed out. And it takes courage to be productive, because if you want to be productive with the thing that moves you in the right direction according to your new story, you have to prioritize. And that means cutting stuff out. And sometimes that's not popular, but it is necessary. And sometimes it's also about cutting not only stuff out, but also people. So you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You got to choose them carefully, because they can hold you back or they can lift you up. And if they hold you back, you shouldn't have them in your first circle. Not saying never to see your grandmother again because she's skeptical. It's not about that. It's just about be aware of who you spend the most time with. That is people who can lift you and actually do support you in your dream of moving forward.
Absolutely, or crush you.
Yeah.
I've seen so many cases.
And then there's influence, of course, of being a role model, because you need to be a role model to have influence. So people who have a hard time with the word influence, they tend to like the word role model better. But it's the same thing. Really it is. And then necessity. If you don't have a reason, if it's not necessary or it's not meaningful to you, chances are you're not going to do it. So those are the 6 foundational pillars of everything I do, is based on that. And whenever somebody gets stuck, I send them back to clarity. Always. I love it.
Majbrit. I did read his book, High Performance Habits, And I realized it's so concentrated, it's so compressed. I should have probably read it 3 pages at a time. So I absolutely see how important that someone is holding one accountable and taking you or taking a person or a coachee through step-by-step application of those principles, because I have listened to his audio as well, and it was just too much. I
He
couldn't
is,
handle
he is,
that, and I did applied a lot of things from it, I have to say, but I can see how powerful if someone is walked through and applied. Uh, Brandon's, I know the study he's put into and the research. Like I'm absolutely impressed by the guy.
yeah, he's really, really cool. And of course, he's got a special place in my heart because he was the one who had me pivot everything. So of course, he's got this special place in my heart. But even when I'm not being biased, he really is still cool. And I think one of the things I like about him is he's just being Brendan. He really truly is just being himself. He's not he don't go out there and have an illusion or he's going to save the world. He always says, I cannot change the whole world, but if I can change somebody's world, I would have made a difference.
Yeah,
I like that. So I'm striving to do that. So I'm not going to change the world, but I can change somebody's world. And the more people I get to help, the cooler place the world is going to be, and I'm going to feel good about myself. So it's all win, win, win. One for me, one for you, one for the world. We added a win with us. I did. I added a win.
And this is extremely important, I believe, with these role models, absolute leaders who are able to nudge. Hey, 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 next level. You've been sitting there for 3 years. There's so much more in you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I know people know it, but they just don't believe in themselves. And the struggle of I got an example. It's really basic and it's nothing dramatic at all, but it's the same psychological effect that triggers. When I wanted to start my coaching business, my dad said, I think you should get a real job.
The old advisors, huh? The 5 people
Yes.
around you.
he think it's some fluffy mindlessness and that has nothing to do with the job. And I disagree. So I kept moving on to build my company. But whenever you hit a struggle or you try something and it doesn't work, you start doubting yourself. And I did. I think everybody does. And we do it all the time. If you're on level 1, you have level 1 doubts. When you're on level 10, you have level 10 doubts, but it never ends. And then you go ask yourself, oh my God, what if he's right? What if you can't make a living of being a coach? But then you have to tap in and say, is this a market reality? Is somebody else making a living from coaching? Heck yeah. So it is possible. So it's not market reality. It is in my head that I start doubting myself because something is not working. And then all the skeptical voices comes into my head.
Yes.
All the naysayers, right? Say, can't do that. And you go, oh, maybe they're right. What if they're right? Oh, no. But you have to stop up and say, is this really a market reality or just you freaking out right now?
And I think this is the time when you should not see your father, who is probably not a very successful coach, an international
He's not
one.
a coach at all. And
Of
that
course.
brings me to the next thing, because people say, yeah, but how do you deal with the haters and the trolls? And sometimes my dad could fall in that category. He's not a hater, he's not a troll, but he's still being negative. So he's still trying to hold me back. Say, you know what I found? Never accept criticism from someone you wouldn't ask for advice. And that's such a good one to hang on to, because really, why should his opinion matter? He's never been a coach. He's never even had a coach. He has no idea what I'm doing. He's just talking about you can't make a living of that. but you have no basis for saying so.
Yeah, credibility, how important, and results. So what is your next big thing? I mean, what would you want to be celebrating in 5 years?
I think in 5 years, the last one moved out of home and the last of the kids. And I will not be celebrating that. I'm going to miss her, but I will be celebrating the freedom it brings. And I will not be staying in Denmark during wintertime. That's for sure. I would be working from somewhere with palm trees.
Where would you go? Have you decided yet?
No,
Always
we
another
talked
place.
about Bali. Talked about Bali. But I don't know if that's going to be it or where we end up. We also talked about Cyprus. It doesn't take long to go to Cyprus from here. So let's see where we end up. But for sure, we're going to end up in a place with palm trees and warm weather. That's for sure.
Beautiful. So is there anything else that you want to share, or maybe a gold nugget as a summary that you really want to emphasize for the audience?
Yeah, maybe one of the things I can say, believe in yourself because you got it. Everybody has it within them. We just need to activate it. So if you got this feeling that there's more in you, there's more to life, it can't be right. Don't blame yourself like I did. It's probably just me making too many demands. No, it's not. You only get one life, so you got to make it count. And happiness is not a destination. It's a way of life. So you have to wake up every morning and feel like you're excited about life. Don't wake up on a Monday and say, oh my God, there's 5 days to the weekend. Don't live for the weekends because there's way more everyday days. And then there's 7 days in a week and Sunday is not one of them. So stop delaying yourself with some days, because some days are never going to happen. Make a decision and stand up for yourself, because you deserve the best life you can get. So stand up for that and say, hey, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do what it takes, because you can. And everybody's got the power to. You don't have to be a guru or a specialist or an expert to make a life of happiness. You just have to make a decision that you want it.
Very insightful. Before we say goodbye, do you want to share where do they find you? Sort of maybe web page or email.
Yeah, they can find me on Majbrit.coach, Majbrit.coach. That's my webpage. And from there, they can be guided to the newsletter, the Sunday Success Letter, or they can be guided to a curiosity call. That's just a 15-minute call. And then from there, they can go wherever they want.
Very
so if they go to Majbrit.coach, they'll find me.
Beautiful. I will share all your details under the video. And Majbrit, thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed it. Just keep shining your light and impact millions of people, because they need you.
Oh, thank you so much. I will, because the world needs love and confetti. I really believe it does. It's emotional flatline, right? Everybody's been struggling over the past couple of years. Everything's been turned upside down. Everything that we used to do all of a sudden doesn't work anymore, because the game's changed. So we need to spread love and confetti to the world. The confetti is the celebration thing. So we need that.
Thanks very much. I loved our time together, and I hope to see you soon again. Thanks, Majbrit.
Oh, me too. Thank you. And thank you for having me.
Of course.